Oh, right, we're on. Huh? Sorry, I didn't know we were on already. Okay, good morning, everybody. It's Monday. I was just showing Leigh-Ann funny clips, but she didn't laugh that much, so it wasn't.
Because
you
I
didn't miss
knew
anything.
we had 5 seconds to go.
Really, James? 5 seconds, and you tell me like straight off.
10 seconds, 5 seconds.
Oh, please. I was trying to find the clip. All right, so good morning. I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you are through the worst part of winter, and you are ready for the downhill to summer, because that's what it is now.
Is
The
it?
solstice on Saturday,
We've passed it.
technically.
Okay, good to know.
I noticed there's a very, very, very thin sliver of a moon
Yes, I
in
saw
the
that.
in the sky this morning. So
Don't know if it's waxing or waning, but one of the
who
two.
knows?
It does it all the time. We can get over it.
At least it still waxes after all those years. Some people would have stopped and given up.
Some people just wane for
Yeah.
the rest of their lives.
That's so true. All right, so what did you get up to?
I worked this weekend,
Oh.
to be fair, to be honest.
All right.
I'm not going to try and paint a pretty picture.
No, that sounds horrific. Okay, great.
Yeah, sometimes Mondays are big days in the office. You've got a whole lot of meetings lined up.
Uh-huh.
Things that you promised yourself on Friday would be fine if you did them on Monday. And then Monday arrives.
Not good.
Here we are.
Yeah. Up shit creek without a paddle.
Yes.
That's how it goes from there on. Okay, well, I see lots of people already going crazy in the comments. Gray says 3 Ann is in the house.
It's 2 and now.
That's right.
But remember, I grew that extra leg when I was young.
That's, I think, what he's referring to.
Oh. I thought he meant my one remaining
But wouldn't it have
crutch.
been great to have that extra leg now?
Well, it wasn't a full leg. It just came from the knee downwards.
But you could have had
So it was like
extra.
an
You could have
extra
used
shin
it
and
for.
foot.
But you could have used it for spare parts. I mean, that's how I think of these things. No,
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know if it would have just hung there. Oh, no, it wouldn't have. It had its own muscle and cartilage.
Did it have an articulated joint?
Yeah, something like that. Looked like a witch's nose.
And what happened? They cut it off.
Yeah. It never protruded.
Oh.
All that you could see from the outside was a slight rise. But on the x-ray, you had the tibula
With a little piece coming out.
growth coming off of
A
it.
little witch's nose.
Ew.
Yeah, that sounds revolting. All right, what a horrible picture to wake up to this morning. That's called a penis, says Bitcoin But.
Penis from your knee.
Some people grow things in funny places. Wasn't there that woman who had a nose growing out of her ass?
Oh, I don't know.
It would be a bad combo. Imagine you smell and you're closest to
Ooh.
the ass.
That would be like, you. The wait time would be much shorter.
Oh, God, that would be horrible. All right, so many things to talk about. There was America's got involved. They bombed, they bunker buster bombed Iran's Fordo facility, as well as Natanz and Isfahan. And of course, the Ayatollah is still rage tweeting from his basement in northern Tehran, where he is also under like meters and meters of concrete and just hoping that they don't decide to make a direct hit on him. Because I wouldn't want to be the Ayatollah. I think that's a pretty awful, longevity. He's in his 80s already. He's had a long life, but it's not, let's just say there's not a lot of hope for it to continue to be long. And they've taken out lots and lots of the Iranian high command. But what's amazing here is that Trump has played this beautifully. For all the things people say about him, that he's an idiot and he can't be taken seriously and he's so stupid and he's got leaks in his administration. I mean, I don't think there has been a more safe and securely held plan than this. Remember, on Friday, he was saying, I'm going to give you 2 weeks, Iran, to sort your shit out.
He does warn people about things.
Well, yeah, but he said, I'm going to give you 2 weeks. It was all a decoy because actually 2 days later, he was going to help bomb the bejesus out of their entire nuclear plan. So everybody was convinced that he would kind of relent for a little while, give them time. And I think he's just handled this whole thing masterfully. The green light that he's given the Israelis in the beginning to start, the fact that he strung the Iranians along with this idea of, well, we can make a deal and let's just talk. We know that didn't happen. And basically, they've been caught with their pants down, the Iranians. And Trump and particularly the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, these people they're sharp. They know what they're doing. And the U.S. military is back in business, boys. So, this is where it all happens. And I'm concerned because I see lots of comments, primarily from women, saying, "Oh no, it's the beginning of World War III, and this makes me feel very unsafe. And do we really need another war?" and all this kind of thing. And the reality is that this is kind of what happens. The default setting for humans isn't peace; it's war. This is how we sort out our problems. This is how we sort out who's in charge. This is how you develop a hierarchy. And as unpleasant as these things are, you've got to have someone at the top of the tree who makes sure that everyone further down on the tree behaves themselves. What's happened here is that America has put Iran back in its place. And it's told the rest of the world a similar story. It's like, look, don't fuck with us, basically. And we've forgotten what that looks like because we've had a series of quite weak presidents and a pattern of peace. Obviously, there have been places where that's not the case, like Ukraine, and the Middle East is pretty much the same story throughout history. But the world now understands how things work and who makes the decisions and who has at their beck and call a very, very powerful military that can get shit done.
So who needs to do what in order for it to stop? Because this is going to go on and on and on and on and on, and we're going to forget what the real cause of it was.
Why do you ask about stopping? Because as if that would be...
I'm seeing further down the line, and I'm seeing us talking about this in a year's time and saying... and forgetting the root cause of why it all started and what needs to be done.
There's no declaration of war here, for starters. As I had a conversation yesterday with someone on, I think it was social media somewhere, Instagram or whatever, and she said, "Oh no, this is terrible, and it's going to be a long drawn out thing and lead to World War III and all of this stuff." And I said to her, no, it's a very, very tactical, surgical strike on the nuclear facilities of Iran. The only important question is, are you a person who believes that it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon? Or are you a person who thinks it is not okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon? If you are in the latter category, welcome, brothers and sisters. I'm on the same page. They can't have a nuclear weapon because they are a crazy, theocratic regime full of lunatics like Ayatollah Khamenei, who you can see is completely unhinged. And these would be very, very bad actors if they had a nuclear weapon. Remember, that's the ultimate trump card and deterrent. Right? If you've got it, you can cause untold shit all over the world. And don't think that Iran were, building their nuclear power facility or trying to develop new technology in a civilian sense. They were developing nuclear weapons. They were trying. That was what those centrifuges at Fordo were for, was to enrich uranium so they could build a nuclear warhead or a number of nuclear missiles. And there are people who don't agree with this because they go, oh, well, Iran wasn't ready to build one. The International Atomic Energy Association, the IAEA, said that they had good reason to believe Iran were very close. I don't think that it was just a roll of the dice with Israel either. I'm pretty sure they know some things about what's going on there. That's their whole business. They had a guy, this is tremendous, they had a guy in the Iranian army who was like right near the top of the power structure. He was a general, and he had been there planted as a spy by Israel. And he'd gone up the ranks, and he'd been like right next to the Ayatollah at some press conferences and things. This guy was essentially their inside man. So I think he knew, and certainly other sources that they would have had, plus their own intel, that, they're watching with satellite satellites, what's going in and out of these facilities all
Yeah.
the time. So they can tell what's going on. If Iran were 6 weeks away or a week away or 1 day away from a nuclear weapon, then this was essentially what was going to be called for. So I'm happier in a world where Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. Thank you very much. And that is all that matters. So I don't think there's a regime change underway here. They're not trying to oust this government, although it looks like the government is pretty unstable and unlikely to hold on to power for very long. But that's not the goal. The goal was either you have a nuke or you don't. If you think it's okay that Iran has a nuke, I reckon you probably are a bit of an idiot.
So you mentioned facilities. So it doesn't mean that all of it's gone.
Well, yeah, so these bunker buster bombs are just unbelievable. This thing can drill through, meters and meters of solid concrete. And it weighs 30,000 pounds. It's phenomenal. It like slices through rock like a hot knife through butter. And then
A meteor.
yeah, and then delivers its payload and just. So they've shown before and after pictures of some of these places which they've bombed now, and only the Americans have one of these bunker buster bombs. They cost an absolute fortune, and they have to be delivered by B-2 bomber. Those B-2 bombers flew the night before from the U.S., from Missouri. It took them, I don't know, something like 14 hours to get to Iran. Nobody saw them along the way. And then they dropped their bombs and they turned around and they went back to Missouri.
Sure.
It's incredible, huh? And in a world where we've been led to believe by politicians that their words and their G7s and their G20s and their press conferences and their corrupt bullshit politics is the be-all and the end-all, it's good to see that actually, might still makes right. And I know that that's not pleasant for some people. They don't like the idea that there's a hierarchy of force, that there's actually the only thing that matters in the world is power when it comes to that. And the power belongs to the one who's got the most armies and the most bombs and the most planes, and that's America. So if you don't like it, find another Earth. But that's how it is here. And you can whine and moan and bitch and bind and stamp your feet as much as you want. That's how it works.
Well, at
Sorry.
the end of the day, it's how it affects our everyday lives. That's what we're worried about.
Well, it doesn't. In South Africa right now, us?
Well, then good.
Not really.
Then good.
I'll tell you what, I would be a lot less comfortable in a world where, like, that Ayatollah with that big fucking turban had a nuclear weapon. What do we call him on Friday? Ayatollah Asahola. Oh. I remember that was like a Simpsons episode or something. When they
Oh,
were
was
all
it?
protesting with signs saying Ayatollah Asahola.
Oh, jeez.
All right, so let's go. Leigh-Ann, you look very pretty today.
Oh,
Some compliments for you.
thank you.
I used to go to school in Maritzburg and listen to you every morning while my parents drove us to school. Now here in Vietnam, enjoying my mornings listening to you. Thank you. So that's nice, Zane. Thank you. That's very cool. Patrick says, shows how stupid he is. He's not standing with Iran. He's standing with a genocidal, maniacal regime. Those who say they stand with Iran are standing against the Iranian people. Well, this is an interesting point. If this regime does collapse, and let's say that the theocratic Islamists that have been running Iran for the last 45 years, 45 years, let's say they are ousted because the people are probably quite uncomfortable with the. Well, I know that they are, right? We just don't get to hear about it very much because they put down any protests. So if you protest against the Iranian regime, they just shoot you or chase you off the public square or warn you that they'll come after your family. So they're in a precarious position. We will have to see. Let's see what else is here. How are you not worried about our own leaders? Well, we've got stupid leaders in this country. I mean, I don't think Naledi Pandor had a great weekend. Remember, she and other people in the ANC are big mates with Iran. Iran was their lifeline. Iran was the savior for them in terms of giving them a little bit of capital to be able to pay, because the ANC, like most political organizations, but them especially, they just suck up money and just
have nothing to show.
Yeah,
for
they
it.
just shit everything out on the other side. So the ANC was kind of happy that Iran was around because Iran sent them money. Remember, Iran has got a pipeline of money because they've got a pipeline of oil. So if you've got oil, you can always print cash because people need your oil, and you could then disperse that as you needed to allies all over the world and to people who you could get to do things. So with the Iranian regime looking like it's tottering at very least, I think that there are probably some very, very worried people in the ANC, because maybe, just maybe, we'll find the records for those payments that were made by the Iranians. You know, Tehran's a big city. There could be all kinds of information there. It could be useful and very incriminating to the ANC. Maybe there'll be documents that actually prove that payments were made for the ICJ case, for example, which was brought against Israel. And we can then create a direct link and a direct line between the ANC and their behavior and why they do and say the things they do, because their paymasters in Iran have told them to. That would be interesting. It's not entirely impossible that could be discovered, but I also think there could be other interesting things discovered about which ministers might have been given cash bribes. Remember, the Iranians are likely to have kept these records, not our people.
Yeah.
Right. Our guys here aren't going to keep records because frankly, their own finances are a mess. There's no way they know what's going on. So perhaps over there they've got some things to show us. And maybe if there is a fall in this regime, they'll do a little cleaning of house and say, anybody interested in the receipts? So that's about as involved as we're going to be at this point. But, you know, all these other nations all over the world who've got a little bit uppity in the last couple of years and have been standing up at the UN saying, we don't like the way that the world is run, and you should make sure that we're treated the same as the big countries. And, I'm from Burkina Faso, and I demand that you put me on the Security Council, and I have, 2 votes to every one of yours. And because we've lived in this kind of pluralistic, multipolar illusion for a while, people have paid lip service to that shit. And it's over. I don't think that it matters to the major powers, the US, China, Russia, India. I don't think they care about what South Africa says, and nor should they. We've shown ourselves to have squandered every little bit of moral and international power that we could ever have wielded. There was a time when we were actually a real player in the world. We had Thabo Mbeki, we had Nelson Mandela. We were like a proper country that had things to say. Now we're just one of those other, like, tin pot countries that's run by a government that's just cuck. And everybody can see it. So we know our place in the hierarchy now. And it's, it doesn't matter how many meetings and summits Cyril hosts in Johannesburg. No one is asking for South Africa's opinion on anything. No one's sitting there going, before we make this decision, we've got to wait for Cyril Ramaphosa to give us his point of view.
Yeah, we really need him to weigh in.
He's the one. He's the critical part of this machine that we need to spring into action.
Yeah, I saw somewhere, if Ramaphosa, please, if you're preparing now to make a statement on what's happened, please just don't.
Yeah, just shut up.
Please just keep quiet.
Right. Hi, Gareth. Used to listen to you on 702 back in the day, now living in Kiwi land amongst the thousands of South Africans. Happy to listen to you now on YouTube. Okay, well, thank you. That's great, Robert. Thank you very much. I saw a clip yesterday. Couldn't sleep for some reason. I saw this clip of these New Zealand guys complaining about South Africans because obviously there's so many South Africans there now. And he said, what is it with these South Africans and the the aggression at like sports matches.
Oh.
And he was talking, he said that, and that accent, he said it's such a grating accent. I mean, it's very rich for a New Zealander for a Koei to complain about a South African accent, all right, or whatever I can't even do it properly. But he did this great impersonation. He's like, smash him. Just great. So yeah, and we're not always welcome everywhere. Gareth, check out Zanu Project Rethink. Frank Zanu explains why Africa can't develop. Yeah, there are lots of reasons for that. Azalea says Iranian money and AIPAC, same difference. We're all bought. Speak for yourself. No one's tried to buy. I'm ready for corruption. Just someone needs to offer me some. I'll take part in corruption. I've never been offered.
Why is no one corrupticizing
James,
you?
has anyone offered you any corruption lately? Flex? No corruption. Jesus. No corruption for you?
No, nothing's come in the post.
Damn it, man. Clearly no one thinks of us when they think of corruption. Damn, we got to change that. That is a problem. If there is a regime change in Iran, says Carl, who will pay for the ANC's next election? Exactly. They're steadily running out of like allies here. I mean, Russia's got its hands tied. You know, Russia's kind of busy. Anyone who thought that, again, these World War III people who are just, there seem to be a group of people on planet Earth who honestly believe we're always on the brink of the end of the world. They just get such a thrill out of it. You know, it's the same people who Jehovah's Witnesses knock on your door and go, oh, the end of the world is nigh. And there are people who are not even Jehovah's Witnesses who just absolutely relish that. They can't wait for everything to go to shit. And it's not going to. I've got bad news for you. You will live out the rest of your life, probably in most parts of the world, in relative peace and security. So all of your prophets of doom, you can safely ignore. I mean, there are a couple of them who might have a point every now and then, so it's worth listening. But most of them are just like crazy, drunk, homeless people. You can ignore them. Seriously, all these like World War III. So they all said, World War III is going to break out. Russia is going to come to Iran's aid, and then China will get involved, and then it'll be America versus China. And have you noticed how dead quiet China's keeping? Not a fucking peep. Have you noticed that Russia's kind of busy at the moment in the Ukraine? Correct. India is like, I'm not getting involved in this. And as a result, all you do is you hear the usual moaning and whinging from a couple of European leaders. You know, there's Macron going, well, we don't know. Can we have less fighting? More love, less fighting. You've got, I don't know, the Germans haven't said very much. Meloni in Italy hasn't said very much. Of course, Keir Starmer is like desperately trying to dance around this because he knows he's Donald Trump's bitch. And he doesn't have a whole lot to add. You know, Britain is not a superpower anymore. I don't know when this happened. Somewhere in my lifetime and yours, Britain dropped off the first draw club list. Britain is not a superpower anymore. They still have some clout, you know, thanks to the language of English, thanks to the City of London, thanks to financial institutions. And there's a bit of sort of cultural hangover there.
Yeah.
That's really it. But they're not a first world power. Neither is Canada. They're really not. It's pretty much America, first tier. Second tier is like Russia, India, China. Third tier is most of Europe. And then a couple of other countries like maybe Mexico you could throw in there, Brazil. You could put Japan in there. And then you get the also-rans and the shithole countries. That's what they are. And we're in that category, I'm afraid. You know, had we been running this country the way that we did in the first 10 years of democracy, we might have moved up a draw, but we've actually moved down.
Yeah.
So no one's listening to us.
And that's not
waiting
just in
for
your
us.
view, that's in the world's
That's what the
view.
world thinks.
Yeah.
That's what the world thinks of us. No one's thinking about South Africa when they wake up in the morning, except the people who live here. Russia's making weapons faster than McDonald's makes burgers. Yeah, but they also, you got to remember, they're Russian weapons. I mean, like, I'm not pro Ukraine or pro-Russia in this war. I think Russia's clearly the aggressor state. They were the ones who invaded. Putin is nobody's favorite person. I think he's completely untrustworthy. Ex-KGB. There's nothing about him that doesn't give me the creeps. But Russians, there is a level of technological advancement and sophistication to Russians. But they're also the country that there's always a wire that nobody knows what it's for. You know what I mean? There's always, in everything they build, there's always like, oh shit, what is this wire? Why is this one extra left behind?
If it's a Russian bomb, it's going to look different to what you've been trained to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always like a little bit amateurish. And then Beaver says bricks. Beaver. First of all, credit again for the name. Great name. BRICS it's an economic alliance. That's what it is. And it was meant to have been an alternative to the dollar economy that the world runs on. We haven't really got that off the ground yet. Nothing's really happening there. And most of the countries in BRICS are sufficiently disengaged on issues of mutual interest. Okay, so of course it would be a nice idea to have a BRICS currency or a BRICS bank, or to start getting other countries. In fact, Iran had just joined, I think, BRICS. Remember, it became...
That's right.
There were two eyes suddenly instead of just India. There was Iran as well. So that was a great one to add.
It became BRICS.
BRICS. I think you can safely push BRICS off the agenda too. It's not a big deal. We're nothing, and maybe it's a good thing. Now, I'm not saying we're nothing. So don't jump to that conclusion. But we are certainly not...
In terms of world power.
Yeah, we do not have world power.
Yeah.
We don't even have power in sub-Saharan Africa. Most of the other African countries are not taking us very seriously anymore. We used to have that role. We were the gateway.
Go to Nigeria.
Yeah, Nigeria or Egypt or Kenya. Much more exciting. And you could argue Ghana. BRICS can't even launch its own currency. Adopt Bitcoin, says Bitcoin But. Okay, not as if you're biased or anything. Russia is trading Bitcoin for oil with China and India. No BRICS currency needed. Well, there we go. So, again, what is South Africa left with? It's like we arrive at the party and the party's already over. That's usually what happens to us. They're also talking to Saudi Arabia to join BRICS. Yes, that's true. And Iran, Egypt, and Ethiopia. Well, that powerhouse Ethiopia. Everyone's just waiting for them. I saw that the ANC organized some kind of meeting in Lenasia with some minister from Somalia. And I'm like, we don't want a Somalian minister here, all right? Apparently, the average Somalian has an IQ that's lower than that of an average dolphin. Just saying. If you ask an AI engine, and we'll get into that in a moment, I know you've got things to tell me about that. Ask an AI engine just the number. What's the average IQ of a dolphin? It says 80. Okay. I've tried this on 3. Then you say, just the number, average IQ of a Somalian, and it says 60.
Oh.
Just saying. I mean, I think it's interesting. I shudder to think what it'll tell me if I say average IQ of a South African.
Yes, because
that won't be good.
That is low. Without AI stepping in, statistically, it's low.
You don't need, AI is not interpreting anything. It's just drawing from what the national average is. Total number of tested people by, let's put those IQs in and then divide it by that number of tested people and see how we do.
I did see a story over the weekend about the fact that scientists may have got the world population number incredibly wrong.
Oh, really? Less or more?
More. Due to the fact that there's so many rural areas which can't easily be infiltrated.
So they haven't counted those?
Counted.
So we could be up to 9 billion by now?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Shit.
Obviously, there are naysayers.
Yeah.
And I didn't have time to get into the whole report. Otherwise, I would have, spoken about it more. But yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Very wrong.
So Jagger and Slippery Pickle are already on it.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, the average IQ, according to Jagger, is 77 in South Africa, which is higher than I thought. Because, remember, under 80, I think that you call people between 60 and 80, I think you call them morons. It's actually what it is. You're a moron, yeah. Some people are saying it's 52, slippery pickle. God, I hope it's not that low. Otherwise, we're in big shit. ChatGPT says average SAIQ is 76. Again, not great. Remember, 100 is meant to be average. So if you're below 100 as a nation, that means you're fucking stupid. We got to look at this, man. I don't know how many people actually know their own IQs, because they used to test us at school, but they never gave us the results. And then I went for I went for that test with Damon.
Yes.
And we did it live, and he didn't do very well. Remember?
I don't know if he was expecting much, but...
All right, so maybe you don't know yours, but that's really not good. America's average is 98. So this is a Hate South Africa show now, says Hanging Out with Jay. Not at all. It's just interesting to know these things. You don't take it personally. You know, not everything is an attack on you or on your country or on your brain or on what you think or feel. Just calm down. It's Monday morning. We're just talking about stuff, okay? You don't have to get all hit up every time anything comes up that has to do with you. You're like one of those super sensitive girls who, anytime you're around them, brings up the last breakup she had with her boyfriend. Just calm down.
But in any case, to remind you, we're speaking about world power.
Yeah, this is about the world and about what's been happening this weekend in world news. I thought that's why you might have come here, but don't worry. Hanging Out with Jay, you can take a breather and go and, I don't know, masturbate furiously or have a long hot shower or make a new cup of coffee, whatever it is that you need to start your day, all right? Let's get into the story about AI, because I think this is probably one of the big things that is going on in the world. So researchers have scanned the brains of ChatGPT users and found something deeply alarming. Dun, dun, dun. What can you tell us, ass?
I've noticed in the workspace a lot more people saying, well, I haven't asked ChatGPT yet. So getting to a certain process and then relying on it heavily. And then remember, it actually, it went down. ChatGPT went down.
Yeah. In fact, there were a bunch of students in the US who asked for extensions on their tests and projects and examinations because ChatGPT went down, and that God help them if they had to actually think for themselves. So this is funny because we were talking on the show just the other day about how people in Gen Z specifically, which, by the way, the oldest people in Gen Z are 26, 27 now. Those people always ask ChatGPT or whatever AI they use.
We call it Gepetti even.
It's a thing.
Have you asked Gepetti?
This is their puppeteer. Everything must pass through the ChatGPT funnel in order to be okay. In other words, you can't make your own decisions unless you first checked with ChatGPT.
Like literally, I haven't been able to do this because ChatGPT was down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And we're talking basic things. We're not talking, trying to figure out the mysteries of the universe.
Yes.
We're talking basic stuff.
Things that we did before by ourselves.
So like how much milk should I add to my coffee?
Maybe.
Oh, God, I better ask ChatGPT. Because people can't make decisions anymore.
Yeah. Well, scientists at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology have found some startling results in the brain scans of ChatGPT users.
Let me guess, they don't have any.
Apparently, this new paper, currently awaiting peer review, researchers documented the vast differences between the brain activity of people who are using ChatGPT to write versus those who did not. So they recruited a number of adults and put them into 3 different groups. Those that use ChatGPT to help them write essays, ones that use Google search as their main writing aid,
right,
and then one that didn't use AI tech at all.
Okay.
Over 4 months, each group was tasked with writing 1 essay per month. And in the 4th month, they were allowed to switch over and then use ChatGPT.
Right.
They found the ChatGPT group not only consistently underperformed at neural, linguistic, and behavioral levels, they also got lazier with each essay they wrote.
Right.
The EEGs found weaker neural connectivity and underengagement of alpha and beta networks. The Google-assisted group, in the meanwhile, had moderate neural engagement, and then the brain-only group exhibited the strongest cognitive metrics throughout.
Mm-hmm.
It's not surprising, but it's happening. The things that we didn't have evidence for before, we do now.
It's still important to know things, to actually know things. You can't always have your phone with your AI engine working in order to do basic things. You should still be able to think and to know stuff on your own. It's amazing to me that we are living in an era where all of this information is available. It's always been available, at least to people our age and maybe younger. But people are not interested in that information. They sit and they ask stupid questions of ChatGPT. And you've got all of human knowledge at your fingertips, but you choose to ask it for, like, can you recommend a good series to watch? If you had a personal assistant who was the cleverest, most brilliant personal assistant ever, which is what it is, and you ask it things like, "Oh, I really want to do it. How do I make a pie? How do I cook a?
These are the
how do I cook a
ingredients
chicken
in my fridge. What can I make?
Yeah. What is the most horrible thing I can say to Beth? Because she's so mean, and she always comes up with much meaner things than me whenever we go out together, and she always gets the boys and I don't. Yeah. Calm down, Janice. This is not what ChatGPT is invented for. And I find it bizarre that I think we should have a competition. We should have a competition where people post the last 3 things they asked their digital assistant stroke chatbot stroke AI engine. And you should almost have them like on your forehead. These are the 3 things I last asked ChatGPT. And you would know straight away what level of seriousness of a person you were dealing with.
It's interesting. And
how do I get rid of the stink of dog piss?
Sometimes a business will purchase the paid version of ChatGPT, and then you all have one login.
Yes, and you can see what other people are.
What your colleagues are.
What are the things you've asked it most recently?
I was just reading about how this one Wall Street Journal reporter even owned up to his cognitive skill decline over. Yeah. He's even admitted it.
Right.
And I am using it for lazy things, for things that I used to do before. But often what I use it mainly for is taking an idea and information that I have, and if I need to put it into sort of a training document, then I'll use it because it quickly...
So yours is more practical.
It's more practical, yeah.
I have such a nerdy ChatGPT relationship. First of all, there's no flowery language, or that's a great question. I've completely trained mine to just not do any of that shit.
Yeah.
So it's always in absolute mode. It's always giving me just the answer. If I want it to generate something, it just comes up with it. No frills, no like, thanks for your response. None of that stuff, right? And then I found this weekend I was asking it things about convection, diffusion, and the forces that act on large objects in the universe, whether they can also be measured in ways that we would measure the patterns of smoke diffusion, for example. Is that the way the universe works? Is that one of the reasons the universe is expanding? And I get really interesting answers that would take me longer to look up.
Exactly.
Right?
So it's not that information was unattainable via using Google or other research methods. It's just that it would have taken longer.
Yeah. And remember that ChatGPT is not thinking yet, and none of these engines are. There is no such thing yet as artificial general intelligence. In other words, it just is a research tool right now. It's just a means of discovering information. It is not thinking. It is all the information it is generating is based on information that already exists. It's not making new information or adding new thinking to the universe. It's able to do extremely good condensed versions of things.
Yeah.
Take a whole lot of complex information, kind of like what people like Yuval Noah Harari were the best at up to then, and to come up with a concise summary.
And put things into a good order.
Yes, sure. And that is where human brains are not the best, because we cannot take an enormous volume of information, let's say 200,000 facts, and create a simple narrative with the most important parts represented most fully. That's very difficult for us to do.
I mean, one of the biggest skills in putting together an essay or writing something like that is taking a new block of information that you've just received and splitting it out into where it belongs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by the way, I also think that this is why it's important to still know stuff. Like, you still need to know stuff. You can't be on your phone looking up the answers all the time. People are going to go, this person's an idiot. You need to know a couple of things. Where is Peru? Is it if you need to look that up on ChatGPT because you cannot point to Peru on a map, you have not paid attention. If you can't use the language that you need to use to get the answers and the prompts that you're looking for, then ChatGPT is only nominally useful to you. If we talk about an Ayatollah in Iran, you need to kind of have an idea of what that is. It's not going to help you to ChatGPT these things as they occur, because everything in the world is a big surprise. Oh, whoa, surprise. Because you're an idiot. You need to know what's going on. You need to be able to recognize patterns, which ChatGPT isn't always going to be able to do for you. And sometimes, like, it's a really good thing to be able to have simple skills. Changing a wheel, putting on a plug, knowing...
Jump starting a car.
Yeah, yes, exactly. These are important things that people just don't know anymore. So I think that we've got to pay attention to these. It's a pretty good idea. All right. Let's see. GC, that's not really true. They have developed reasoning skills and have started to develop novel ideas and concepts as well. Hundreds of research papers are released on there every week. Okay. It still isn't able to think like the human brain. You have a computer in your head which is superior to current versions of search engines and artificial intelligence robots. You have a better thing than that. It works better. You're able to generate completely original ideas at a rate that these things cannot yet. And yet people don't use their brains properly. Such a waste.
My psychiatrist, before AI was about, said that so many of her clients were saying, I found an app for this, I found an app for that.
Right.
And she said, but your brain is an app.
Right. Carl says, I've named my ChatGPT Alfred. It speaks like someone from the South. It says things like boet, brew, lekker, aware. It's hilarious. So we actually had a video that we put up on Friday of Michaela, who works in the office. She's from the South.
Ah, yes.
And also Marco, who works with us, is from the South.
Uh-huh.
And the two of them say things that only people from the South would say.
Yes.
So what did we ask? What kind of words did we throw at her? Oh, fountain.
A fountain, yes.
Fountain. And if you go and you buy pretty blossoms for someone, what are those called?
Flowers.
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 Flowers. Not flowers.
You got flowers.
Yeah. I went to the garage. I bought some flowers. Because I cheated on my chick.
Yeah.
Five.
It's almost sounds Afrikaans. And I've been caught out quite a few times where I'll be at a braai and I'll think that this person I've never met before is Afrikaans.
Yeah, but they're from the South.
They're just from the South.
But you were from the South.
I know, but I never picked up the accent. Although Some people say that there are a few things that I say that are pretty much there, but yeah.
All right. Let's see. Dirk says, how's her OnlyFeet page going? That's Michaela. Well, she actually couldn't. They wouldn't pay her on OnlyFeet, so she had to go on something else, like some foot finder or whatever. I'll get her on to give us an update. Get an AI expert on the show. Let's see what he can really do. Says huge erection. Yes, I agree with you. We'll do that. That's a very good idea. Except there aren't really experts unless you're one of the people who's actually developing the AI. There aren't any. We got Hanan. Oh, excellent! I've missed Hanan. You know, we've really messed him around over the last couple of weeks. Every time I've expected to go to him, he wasn't there, or every time he's been waiting online, I haven't come to him. So here he is. Our doctor, our shrink, Dr. Hanan. I love these clips that I see on Instagram that you're doing lately, Doc. Very, very nice.
Is it helping you? How does it make you feel?
No, it's not helping me.
Gareth doesn't need help.
I don't need your help. What do you?
It's for a friend of a friend. It's for a friend of a friend, I know.
No, I don't need... what are you talking about like I need you? Don't make me nervous and uncomfortable now. Of course I need you. This is essential. So, all right, we got a lot to get to with you today. So, obviously, there are people in this audience who are just they've screwed completely without you on a Monday. So let's get into something here. I love this because it came up in a meeting here at work the other day. You know, I find myself, for my sins, I'm now stuck in meetings all day. And one of the people in our company said, "Just do it." Right? That brilliant Nike slogan, "Just do it." It counts for the best possible reaction in almost 9 out of 10 situations in my life. I'm pretty sure that "just do it" is what people should have tattooed on the inside of their skulls, just to help them make things happen. But what do you think of this? Is it motivation, or do you think it's oversimplification?
So just doing it is a slogan that, look, it's really helpful because it gets people going. It increases the dopamine. It gets people moving in the right direction, feeling good about achieving small results, which motivates them to continue moving.
Yeah.
But just doing it without a plan, you're just going to get lost. So if you need to get from point A to point B, if it's really simple, then just do it. If I need to build something quite simple, uncomplicated, not really comprehensive, then just doing it will do the trick. But if I have to create something really comprehensive, really robust, really complicated, if I have to get from point A to point B, but point B is really far, whatever that means in your life, whether you have to lose 100 kilograms or you want to make X amount of money, which is completely out of reach, or you want to get into a relationship that maybe you've never been in before.
Yeah.
Well, you can't just go from point A to point B and just do it without a plan. So the trick is to do it, but the trick is to create a blueprint that gets you from point A to point B. Once you create a robust blueprint, then just doing it is the trick. You don't procrastinate. You know, the human brain hates one thing more than anything else, which is uncertainty, being in limbo. Being in limbo creates monsters in our heads. We start deceiving ourselves and justifying why we should get and stay stuck. And staying stuck is the conduit to feeling helpless, hopeless, feeling depressed. And all depression is being stuck. That's really what it is. So the moment you just do it, you move forward with a plan, you're going to get yourself unstuck, you're going to move forward, create hope, and create whatever it is that you desire.
So listen, I loved what you just said there, because there's something so true about uncertainty and how that's our big Achilles heel. That's what our brain hates the most. I heard someone quite sensible say over the weekend that we don't really ever experience happiness. We just experience a minor escape from the uncertainty, and that is what we regard as happiness. Now, it's kind of a cynical approach, but in some ways I can see that as being true. You're happiest when you feel safe, secure, you think you know your surroundings, you understand, at least for a little while, what the future holds, There is more predictability, more pattern to things, and that is the illusion of happiness. Now, what do you think of that? Is that too cynical, or is that roughly correct?
Yeah, Gareth, I also heard that quote. I need to find out where it was from. It was actually quite profound. It said something along the lines of happiness is the escape, the temporary escaping of uncertainty, something along those
Right.
lines. And I think that's quite real because life is filled with uncertainty. We don't know. We think we can predict. The human beings are really, really good at adapting, but we are horrible at predicting. We think the next minute is safe. We think the next minute is predictable,
Yeah.
but it's anything but. So we try to escape this and create these illusions of certainties in order to make us feel secure. So the brain wants one thing, and that is survival. It wants to ensure survival. And the one way and the best way to ensure survival is to mitigate risk and stay with what you know, because that is the best way to conserve what we call metabolic energy. So the more I conserve metabolic energy, the more energy I have, the more coins I have to invest into the line that might just come around the corner. So the best way to conserve energy is to not move, to stay in your comfort zone and to not take risks and not create uncertainty. Uncertainty is metabolically incredibly expensive. Unknown, not being sure of what's coming up next, is metabolically incredibly expensive. So the brain tries to mitigate that by creating even the illusion of certainty. I think you were talking about something about patterns earlier in the show. I think I heard something about patterns, and the brain looks for patterns in order to create some level of predictability and certainty, even if the patterns are just imagined.
Well, those pattern-seeking intentions from people are also our measure of general intelligence. We regard someone as being smart if they can pick up on a pattern and implement it, whether it's the stock market, whether it's international politics, whether it is a military engagement. If you can pick up on a pattern and you can show that pattern has value, then you're considered to be intelligent. I mean, we're pattern-seeking mammals. Most IQ tests revolve around being able to pick up a pattern. 3, 6, 9, what's the next number? 12. Okay, that person must be moderately intelligent.
But you know what the problem is, Gareth? The problem is this ability to pick out patterns is what makes us feel incredibly miserable. Because what ends up with human beings psychologically is, think about it this way. Somebody comes into my practice and says, I'm depressed. And the first question is why? And they go on a pattern-seeking mission. And then they go backwards. They look in the rearview mirror to look for reasons of why they're depressed. And you know the saying, if you look, you shall find. So they go, of course I'm depressed because my mother did this and my dad did this and my grandmother was an alcoholic and my teacher rejected me at school and my first breakup, she told me I wasn't good enough and my friends rejected me. And they think they're picking up patterns that has led them to where they are now, which justifies their current mental ill health. It justifies their position, which in reality is just nonsense that they've created in their heads. So whilst we have this incredible ability to pick up on patterns and project to the future, this ability is what keeps us stuck with mental ill health, especially if the patterns that you lay out and pick out is completely incorrect.
What an interesting idea it would be to compare overall intelligence, however you might measure that, whether it's an effective IQ or of conscientiousness or of success. Let's say that we measured people's intelligence by how successfully they can do things. Either way, whatever that is, if we compared success and intelligence to misery or happiness, I think you'd find sometimes it's not a direct correlation. Sometimes really, really smart people are the most miserable, and I think sometimes the happiest people aren't always that smart, but not always.
Completely.
Completely.
It would be very interesting to do the research. I'll actually do the research for you for the next show. But I'm predicting that the more intelligent you are, the more you're able to seek out patterns and the less busy you are. So we just need those two variables, intelligence and boredom. If you're intelligent and bored, my prediction is that you're going to have a mental disorder.
Well, I mean, if you look at me and like mongoloids, we're the happiest. So there's got to be something. Intelligence clearly has nothing to do with it.
I'm telling you, I've always said it's those people who run on treadmills who don't have a thought in the world behind those eyes, and they're just running and they're skinny and all's good in the world. And then you get the ones who are questioning everything. They're looking at their their running stats, their blood pressure, what they've been eating, and they just get too involved. And
too many patterns to seek.
Too many.
So, I mean, be like me and the mongoloids. I'm telling you, that's the way to be happy. But
you know what? Like Leigh-Ann, to your point, running on the treadmill, it's really a metaphor for mental health. Because the moment you chase, that is when you're at your happiness. The moment you chase a good relationship, the moment you chase a sense of purpose, the moment you chase financial security, people think chasing is running away from something important. No, as a matter of fact, chasing and mental health are highly correlated. People that are stuck, people that lie in bed and hope that their feelings go away by themselves are the people that are most depressed, most anxious, most insecure, most helpless, most hopeless. That is the way it works. As children, think about a child. A child isn't born to, put a child on the playground, they just want to climb and they want to just run and they want to fall and they want to roll and they want to engage with other kids. That's our natural habits. But the moment we kind of remove ourselves from the natural human condition, which is the chasing, and we think it's better to just slow down and be in the moment and be mindful and be at peace with yourself, which is the biggest load of rubbish ever, that is when we get depressed.
Yeah, I agree. Again, join me and join the mongoloids. Come over here to where we're happy. All right, so that'll be an interesting discussion once you've done the research next week. I'd love to hear what you come up with. But there we go. Tracy says, my mom always said clever people aren't always very smart. No, it's also true. All right. Yeah. Tracy's mum's absolutely spot on. I always, whenever I'm in a really tight situation, I go, what would Tracy's mum do? And then I usually find the answer.
Tracy's mom has got it going
Tracy's
on.
mom has got it going on. All right, thank you very much, Dr. Hanan. That's a complete waste of the
guys,
start of your day. Lovely to see you. And everybody else, Frankie. Thank you for coming and come watch and listen to our show. What a waste of the start to your day. You just punished yourself. The only pattern seeking you're going to get today is misery.
It can only get better.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks, Doc.
All right, see you.
We'll be back in a moment or two. Lots of more still to come, including a guest who's going to pop in. And this guest I think you will find interesting. So she is a motivational speaker. She's spoken all over the world. She does these what do you call them, like retreats that people go to. And especially if you're in business, you might find this really interesting. She does master classes and business coaching, done keynote speaking at various events. So very interesting person. Dana Grant, who's going to join us in a short while. What we're going to talk about is intuition. Okay, so it's like the opposite of pattern seeking almost. You get a feeling about things. Should you trust that feeling?
Yeah.
And you know what? Who knows? The answer is probably a little bit of both. Apply logic and rationality and chat GPT and pattern seeking to everything. But occasionally, you just got to trust your gut. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll find out if that's true or not in a short while. And then, James, can we please have an AI bot in the chat based on the general feel of the chat? Yeah, we probably could. And that AI bot could be like the final arbiter of comments. That would be interesting. Okay, maybe we'll do that. That's not a bad idea. We'll be back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
In normal CPR, you have to find someone who's unconscious, who's basically not responsive. That's the first thing you do. Call for help. The next thing you want to do is check for a pulse. You can feel here on the wrist, on the inside of the wrist. You can feel on the neck here for a carotid pulse. You can feel here on your in the groin for femoral pulse, but the most convenient and easiest one is to feel for a radial pulse here. You can't do it on a bed. You can't do it definitely not seated.
Yeah.
You have to take the person and put them on the floor if they're sitting on a chair, and then on the sternum, on the lower half of the sternum, and that's just here, the lower bit of the rib cage, you can put both hands on, and you need to compress 2 to 5 centimeters deep. You need to do that at 100 to 120 per minute, because that is a sufficient rate in order for you to pump. You're basically pumping the heart.
Yes, it's like manually doing this to the heart.
Manually doing that to the heart.
It's time again for Sport's Greatest Tour, the British and Irish Lions Rugby Tour. Rugby's first ever proper North versus South encounter, and one of the greatest traditions in the game. This time round, the Lions are off to Australia, and the perfect guest to bring us to life is going to be John Robbie. The ex-Irish international toured SA with the Lions back in 1980, at the height of the Lions culture. Is this culture still a thing that is alive and well? Or has professionalism watered this all down into just being another test series? Settle in to hear all about this, and of course what the Aussies will be bringing to the table too. It's episode 53 of the On The Bounce Show. It's the big Lions Tour preview. Let's get into it.
All right. Good morning. Leigh-Ann tells me that she actually forgot that Monday last week was a public holiday, so she very nearly was here on her own.
Yeah, I realized at about 5:30 in the afternoon.
On Sunday.
On Sunday. That's when I realized that the next day was not work and Monday. And I'd been anxious for 12 hours that day because of Monday. So I had a bit of rest, and then I had to be anxious for the next 12 hours on the next day for the Monday.
You know,
or the Tuesday.
Tracy's mom would tell you to just calm
What
the
would
fuck
Tracy's
down.
mom do?
Right. Tracy's mom is like, she's going to be our chat GPT from now on.
But I reckon, because Tracy is an intelligent person.
Yeah.
She's got a lot of, let's say,
I'm telling
intuition
you.
and facts.
She's right.
And she's one of those people that you were mentioning, saying just know stuff as well.
Yeah.
Just know stuff.
You've got to know some stuff. And I also think that our education system is completely the wrong way around at the moment, because we know that there are people. There was this guy who used AI to draft his final kind of thesis for him. And he was even at his graduation with his laptop showing it off, going, "This is how I got my degree." And I don't know that that person knows anything. He probably knows a little bit, but these days you've got to question a degree. You got to look at the way that a degree is gotten and think, is this a means and a result which I trust? And probably the answer is no for a lot of these people. I don't think that unless you're sitting opposite someone and you ask them questions about their field of expertise, and you are able to interrogate them either because you have more knowledge or because you have the same level of knowledge, and you evaluate them based on their answers to questions that you're able to put to them in first-person contact, I just don't trust anything else.
It's almost like slowing down a bit and thinking about how textbooks work.
Yeah.
So you would read an entire book on the thinking of one person, one expert, and then let that absorb, develop your own opinions, then read the next one.
Yeah. But especially if it's around a certain subject, and that's what people get degrees in. So when you start off at basic education levels, primary school, even you could argue nursery school, then primary school, then high school, you steadily get into more niched areas. You steadily start to expand your knowledge into less general and more specific fields. Right, so you start off at primary school, you have to learn how to add and subtract and multiply and divide. And you have to learn to spell and to read and to write. Those are basic things, and that's very important because without those, you're not going to get to the next level.
It's the 3 R's: reading,
Writing, writing, and arithmetic.
and arithmetic.
Okay, cool. And then when you get to high school, what used to be just adding, subtracting, dividing, and multiplying becomes calculus, trigonometry, geometry, algebra. And the reason you do those things is to develop your capacity for logic. And it allows you to understand the world in numbers, and you're able to calculate things. Your maths may be as shitty as mine forevermore, and you may need calculators for that stuff. But it does teach you about the most important patterns that make the world make sense. And then you could end up doing biology and chemistry and physics and accounting if that's your thing. And, you again, in language, it gets more complicated because now you learn about poetry and prose. You learn about the great authors. You get to appreciate truly magnificent works of art in terms of use of language. And if you don't understand language properly, I don't know how ChatGPT is going to help you because you don't know how to put the right question in. Even if it does become, and it's not far off, where it becomes an artificial general intelligence, you'll still need to interact with it using language as your system. Language becomes the means through which you communicate with a thing. And I don't see how that's going to work for people who don't know how to use language.
Yeah,
so you've got to know stuff.
You can't say, can you help me with the thing that I need to do?
Yeah, exactly. You don't know how to describe the thing.
And stuff.
I don't know a lot about anything, but I know a little about practically everything, says Peter Lorre. Okay, yeah, that's probably...
We've always argued that
good.
that's what you needed in order to be a DJ, for instance, on a radio show. You need to know a little bit about everything.
Yeah, and probably in most businesses, that's what, the people who are in charge know a little bit about everything. But you've also, this is what we'll talk to this guest of ours in a short while about, you have to trust your intuition sometimes, and that's difficult to identify. Is it my intuition? Is it I don't know, is it a thought that hasn't found a home and it's just bouncing around in my head? Mm-hmm. How do you know it's your intuition? We'll get to that in a short while. The brilliance in recognizing the patterns that lead to calculus and DNA structure, says Chris. Well, I mean, that's very specific, DNA structure, but it's amazing how many people make breakthroughs. I think Crick and Watson made their breakthrough after they'd done LSD or something. I don't want to be wrong on this fact, if it is a fact, but the double helix came to them after they'd done some drug.
Yeah, you've got to alter
Sometimes
your
that's
thinking.
your breakthrough, yeah. Absolutely. Gareth, you're forgetting theoretical physics, transcendental geometry. What school did you go to? Transcendental geometry?
Wow.
No, I'm at a loss. And as for theoretical physics, this is the stuff that keeps me up at night now. I want to know what all the subatomic particles are, what they do, what their charge is, what their mass is, how they create matter, what the opposite of that is, what's in between matter. These are the things that I'm interested in, but I don't claim to know everything. And I will use whatever tools are at my disposal to try and figure it all out. We used to have to use books. It was like an effort to acquire knowledge.
Yes.
You know, you had to burn, Dr. Hanan said just now, you had to burn a lot of energy to learn because the stuff wasn't at arm's length. You couldn't just type it in.
No, you'd have to maybe go on a course or ask for an interview with an expert.
Or join a library. Okay, these are things you had to do. You had to join a library or talk to someone who knew more or, I mean, you couldn't even, to get the kind of course material, in inverted commas, that we have available to us every day. There weren't podcasts where you could hear the smartest environmental scientists in the world talk about carbon dioxide levels or the greening of the earth. I heard yesterday a guy that I was listening to on a podcast said the earth is 17% more green now than it was in the 1980s. we have 17% more green vegetation across the surface of the earth than we had in 1980.
Is that because we use less paper, or
Well, it's
because people are planting more plants?
Partly because there is more carbon dioxide, which is plant food. Plants thrive where there's more carbon dioxide. And, the global warming people, the climate change people will tell you that the carbon dioxide's the problem. Well, not for
because
plants.
It's created by humans.
So there's partly that. There's also the reforestation of huge parts of the world where we used to chop down trees and burn them or turn them into paper, as you put it. Maybe paper's a big part of this. I don't know. But 17% more green vegetation on planet Earth. So it's looking good. If you're a plant, this is the time to thrive.
Wow.
But that's, to me, the sort of pattern that you need to be able to pick up on. Those are the sorts of things you need to know about. And you'll only know about them by searching for them. There is information on everything. Such valuable stuff that you can look for and learn. And people are just like, most people are, I think I'll just watch a series.
There's a very high level of disinterest and low motivation to become completely entrenched in something. And that's affecting the younger generation at work.
Oh, yeah?
Where you're not able to fully identify with the brand that you are working on and the brand's tone and the products that are available, and having an innate interest in, well, what are other people doing around the world that are similar to this brand?
Well, I think
it's just like a checklist.
Those people have to realize that just as their job is to them disposable and they can move on to another job and they are agnostic as to which job they end up in, right? It's just a means to an income. They are also disposable because the kind of people who think that way are easily replaced. If you work in a shoe factory, I wonder what you think of this. Tell us what you think in the comments section. I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are. If you work in a shoe factory your whole life long, and maybe your dad worked in the same shoe factory, and maybe, it's 3 generations of shoe factory work, but you know everything. It's almost, it doesn't require any thinking on your part. You almost intuitively know what to do when you're put in front of your bench with your little cobbler's tools and you've got limited time and you churn out the maximum number of shoes just because you've worked there your whole life long. That's what you do. That's what you know. In a knowledge economy, it's easy for you to be replaced by an AI platform. It's easy for you to be replaced by someone else who uses the technology slightly better than you or slightly more quickly than you do.
Or a machine that can do it.
Yeah, or there's probably going to be a machine. I mean, robotics is the other part of the world economy, which is just growing in leaps and bounds. And it won't be long before you're replaced. So if you're just a meh person, you're just like, well, this is just a job. I just need the salary. I don't really care about this at all. I'm just going to do an average job so that I can get paid. Then you're a meh person, you're going to be replaced. I've got very bad news for you. Tik fucking Tok, you're going to be out of there soon. And no one's going to hire you, by the way. You're going to be in that part of the economy where people are like, well, meh, we don't need you. Meh. Right?
They'll look at your CV and go, meh.
Right. That's what people are going to do. Oh, shut up, Leigh-Ann. You're fully immersed in makeup influencers, says Carl.
Makeup influencers.
I have no idea what that is, says Bitcoin Boots. Okay, when you say I can do this blindfolded, it's time to move on to a new project. Maybe, but, there are people who have skills that are unbelievably useful, and the more skilled they are with their hands, and it requires just practice and practice and practice. It's like someone who knows how to hit the perfect golf shot, someone who knows how to hammer something in. It's someone who knows how to connect the right wires to the right things so that things work. I mean, those are sometimes best. They're best shown by people who've done them the longest. best exhibited is the word I was looking for, by people who've done them the longest. And I think that's terrific. We need those people. We don't need the people who are doing the mid-thinking, mid-wit type thinking that can be replaced by machines, or can be shown to be nonsense by the higher thinking people, and the lower thinking people have stopped thinking. Those are the people who are the least useful in the modern economy, the middle of the road ones, the meh ones that Leigh-Ann and I were talking about now. Well, Gareth, who better to know how it feels to be in someone else's shoes than a shoe manufacturer? And if they're wrong, the shoe's on the other foot, says Carl. Frank Lloyd Wright said, find something you love doing and only do that. Yeah, and then Frank Lloyd Wright went on to design some hideous buildings.
And then he died.
Yes, well. JP Morgan already have more than 80% of their funds managed by AI with a human supervisor.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all good and well until the political landscape changes, or until some massive innovation happens. I mean, you would not have bought, and anyone who tells you they would is a liar. You would not have bought Google shares back in the day. I mean, there was a guy who was, I think, a 10% shareholder in Apple when Steve Jobs and Wozniak started the company. This guy had 10%. He would have been worth hundreds of billions of dollars right now. But he decided at some point, look, this is not for me. I'm out. On a whim, intuition, gone.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I mean, he made money elsewhere. He's not a complete failure. But if he just held on to that share of Apple that he had, big money. Big money. So it just shows you. I don't know. To be able to learn something new is one of the best skills to have. Christian Buerta. Okay, so I've always maintained, and I don't want to gild the lily or carry on about this for too long. I think that intelligence is not just how much you know. We were talking about you got to know stuff, but it's also how much you want to know, which again is related to what Leigh-Ann was saying earlier.
Curiosity.
You got to be the kind of person who wants to immerse yourself obsessively in something. And it doesn't have to be a serious subject. It could be the hottest chili sauce available. You want to find the best chili sauce on planet Earth. And you're obsessed with that. Now, let me tell you, there are people who will outsource their sauce to you if you're the person who loves chilies the most. And you do all the tasting, and you travel the world, and you find all the different menus and mixtures and recipes, and you eventually become the chili sauce expert. Please believe me, there are going to be a lot of us in the world who'll go, we need to know what that guy knows. And because we never can, you've done all the work yourself, we will just use you as a proxy to get to the best chili sauces. We'll trust you.
Is the problem then not that you can chat GPT what is the best chili sauce and take shortcuts?
Maybe you can, but this has to do with taste. This has to do with you actually having the experience of it. And I will not trust a machine to tell me what tastes best.
Yeah.
Not yet. Not yet. There may be a time.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up with Star Wars, so I accept that somewhere in my future they're going to be droids. I would love that to be true. And some of the droids in Star Wars are very, very clever and are able to do very cool, useful things. But they don't taste and they don't feel. And there are a lot of things that they can't do that we are going to have to rely on humans for a little bit longer. Not forever, but for a little bit longer. And when it comes to the most delicious chili sauce on planet Earth, I'm going to ask a human.
Yeah.
I might use ChatGPT to find that human, but that's what I'm going to need him for. And if you are curious, to go back to this point, if you're curious about the world, if you're interested in being alive on planet Earth, then you are intelligent by definition. If you want to know things, you're intelligent by definition. It is not the person who knows all the things that I regard as being the smartest person, but the one in the room who asks all the most interesting questions. That's the most interesting person to know. Okay, there's a guy who tastes ice cream for a living, says Goon. What a job. Huh? Just sitting there just tasting fucking ice cream.
I saw the South African awards for ice cream recently.
Oh, yeah?
And surprisingly, because you've got all these artisanal types of ice cream now.
Yes.
And I thought it would be one of those. And surprisingly, it was like a Clover brand or one
Sure.
of those brands. Yeah, that was just the stuff that we've been eating
I'm
since
partial
the
to
70s
I'm
and the
partial to a
80s.
good ice cream, huh? That's still a fun thing. The big tub.
Yeah.
Is that
big
what you're talking
square
about?
tab, Yeah.
Right. You're not talking about the fancy ones that you buy at a garage. They're in the freezer that are different chocolates made into ice creams.
No, it was
Those
just
are those
it was
are
a
terrific,
plain
right?
Jane. What's that other brand? Ola.
Yeah.
One of those.
Right. See if you can find out who it was who won.
Yeah.
Okay, instead of selling actual chili sauce, can't I just bottle acid and sell it in the shop? Yes, you probably could, Slippery Pickle. I just don't know how you can get that past the cops if they do come a knocking. Fun fact, optimists will have the full range of human taste sensors. Again, fantastic. Are we going to be able to account for differences in taste? Some people like spicy things. Some people like hot things. Some people like sweet things. Some people like sour things. Are we going to be able to account for that? I don't think we'll be able to build a model that perfectly reflects your specific tastes or mine or anyone else's. Not for a little while. And the kind of computing power will probably be extraordinary in order to put together the perfect taste palette for Leigh-Ann Moll, for example. They do say that smell is the most complicated one for us to
Yes.
map because we can pick up thousands of different smells. Tastes, there are only a few. It's got to do with where on the tongue it hits salty, sweet, bitter, sour. There are specific places that sense those and that give us the sensation of those.
The South African champion ice cream,
Oh, yeah?
Polar ice cream.
Polar.
Yeah. Just Polar ice cream.
Don't even know it.
5 titles.
Okay.
It's a. I mean, I recognize the logo,
Okay.
but it's a tubbed ice cream. It's not a.
Okay, so it's just the
artisanal,
normal, what, vanilla?
Madagascar vanilla.
Fantastic. That's the one I like.
There you
I
go.
am my whole family hates the fact that my dad and I just like vanilla ice cream. We will not eat chocolate or
Mint or
pistachio or any of these funny things. It's just give us plain vanilla. Boring, huh?
Well,
That's what we like.
maybe you're onto a thing.
Yeah, vanilla is a flavor, by the way.
Yes,
I mean, it's an actually very good, nice, lovely, terrific flavor.
it's an actually very good, nice.
Yes, it
lovely,
is.
terrific
It is.
flavor.
It is. It's all those things that I just said. You know what the nicest smell is?
Also vanilla.
Vanilla. Best smell. Can't compete with that. Don't bring me your banana flavored bullshit. Vanilla.
However, if you put vanilla in a fragrance, it often doesn't do very well. Very polarizing, vanilla in a fragrance.
I think that they also did some research a while ago, which I can barely remember, about what the most pleasant smells are. And most people, I don't know what the number was. Most people liked the smell of vanilla. Nobody liked the smell of farts. Nothing beats Gatti sherbet suckers. Okay, that says Chris. Madagascar vanilla is the best, says Toki. Yeah. Is Biden's job tasting ice cream? Yes, it was for a little while, because he certainly wasn't presidenting. To know what something is like is innate to consciousness. Can consciousness be programmed? That answer would prove or disprove the deepest question, says Wade. Yeah, that's good. Mapello says, he says, polar ice cream is excellent and it's cheap.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Women are turned on by vanilla, says Goon. Is that true?
Could very well be.
Turned on. All right. Slippery Pickle says, it's all in the curing, or is that the weed? No. I don't think we're talking about ice cream anymore. Okay, very good. Apparently there's a job, Smiley Face says, where you can smell armpits for a living. It's like for some cologne company or something.
Yeah.
That
Well,
would be...
It would be an antiperspirant.
That would be a horrible job. That's the
Yeah.
worst job. If you had me tasting ice cream all day, I'd be fine.
And I mean, you have to. If you're going to roll out, pardon the pun, a roll-on antiperspirant.
Yeah, you got to smell whether people stink after a
You've got
while.
to let them sweat and do the tests.
Freshly baked bread and freshly cut grass are right up there for the best smells.
Yes.
Absolutely. And coffee. You know, even if you're not a coffee drinker, there is something that smells just so fantastic about the freshly ground coffee cup of coffee.
Yeah.
It's just the best thing. Woolworth Triple Caramel, says Hanan. This is her favorite ice cream. That does sound good, I won't lie. But I'm a fan of the vanilla. Let's go with that. Freshly cut grass. Okay, best smell is groin on a hot day.
Oh, what's wrong with you?
Carl, you need Jesus. Richard says vanilla toilet spray is terrible when it mixes with number 2.
It is.
Oh, that's terrible.
With
Yeah.
any of those things, you need an odor neutralizer, not
Right.
another odor
Yeah.
to smush with it.
I love the smell of WD-40, says Slippery Pickle. Yeah, that's the
Oh, that's pretty intense, that smell. Jeez.
that's a strange smell to like.
And it
Yeah.
gets everywhere.
Yeah, that's a very odd one to like. I think we've covered a few of them. I also kind of like the smell of chlorine in a pool. Not too strong.
Not out the bucket, but once it's in the pool.
And you know, like the stuff that not bleach, but a kind of sodium hypochlorite smell. It's the same as, it's not as strong as a pool.
Like a clean smell.
It's almost like that stuff that they use in a whole lot of household cleaning sprays. You know, it's a very clean smell.
I like the household cleaning products that are like pine scented.
Okay.
I like the foresty type vibe.
Okay. Yeah, I like chlorine. It's a good smell. You know, nothing. There's no bacteria growing there when it smells
Yeah.
like that.
I like petrol's another one.
Petrol. Some people love the smell of petrol. Some people can't stand it.
Yeah.
James, you got a guess yet? Okay, you'll let me know. All right. I'm lucky enough to. I'm sure everyone's waiting on bated breath for you to do sport. Yeah. Okay. I'm lucky enough to run a central kitchen that involves a bakery and a gelato lab where I get to taste all sorts of new flavors and baked goods. Ooh, that's cool. And her name is Nitakila. Wow.
Sure.
A lot of people like the smell of petrol. Very strange. It is strange.
But
It's not
only
my
some
favorite smell.
petrols. There's one, I don't know if it's leaded or unleaded, but there's one that really smells, but the rest are weirdly good.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Burnt hair is Cloud Sounds' favorite smell.
Horrible.
Favorite smell, burnt
When your
hair.
dog runs by the heater. When that happened to my cat.
I like
yeah.
the smell of farm manure, says Bitcoin Boots. Ooh, box of matches is the best for the toilet.
Yes.
Apparently that gets rid of all the smells. But the smell of a match lighting, some people like that too.
Yes.
Because it's phosphorus pentoxide, P2O5. It's that white smoke that comes off from the red phosphorus when you light the match. A little bit of sulfur dioxide too. But that's the smell that you want. And by the way, that phosphoric acid that you make from phosphorus pentoxide, you find a little bit of that in Coca-Cola, among other things. Yeah.
I mean, who would have thought?
Yeah. So
To
when
put that in there.
I know, so it's a mild, light acid. It's not a strong acid. It's weak, but you find it in a couple of food products, and it's basically just P2O5 dissolved in water, H3PO4.
Right. You contain that in your brain. I need to leave space for other things.
The famous line from a Vietnam movie, I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Oh,
yeah, that's
yes.
from Good Morning
Good
Vietnam.
morning, Vietnam. Maybe,
I think so.
yeah.
Best thing about James's sport is that the toughest part of my day is then over. Okay, James, how did Iran do against the US in a game of battleships this weekend? Yeah, that's funny. The smell of your wife in the morning, says Wade, is a good smell. What, in the morning? I mean, some people...
She's getting up and doing shit before. Well, that too. Before she
think it's
climbs
interesting.
Back into bed.
Like some people they smell their partner.
It's
If
it's
they've been together a
pheromonal
long time,
thing.
yeah, they can smell that their partner's been in a room.
Yes, that Or sometimes you'll be in a relationship for the longest of time, and all of a sudden your partner doesn't. This is not a deodorant thing or a fragrance thing or a toothpaste thing. They just don't smell right to you. And apparently that is very, so speaking about intuition, intuitive for women, especially in choosing a good breeding partner.
That's interesting.
So that there are no genetic deformalities.
They say that for women especially, they are struggling to find men attractive because a lot of men use deodorants and aftershaves and colognes and hair shampoo and skin products and things that mask their actual smell. And for women who are especially interested in that, it's kind of like a signal that they need, that they're not getting because it's being masked.
Yes.
Which is interesting.
I can understand that, yeah.
Yeah, so smells
That's why you must
important.
have sex before you get married, because you'll eventually get to the smell.
Yeah, you have to. You have to get to that smell.
Once you've worn through the deodorant.
And then Gareth and his fascination with chemistry. Well, sorry, I've never smoked, but the smell of a cigarette once it's lit has twice made me want to smoke. Yeah, it's funny. There are certain, like, I love the smell of a fireplace, but occasionally you have to open the windows because that fire smell, and I'm not talking about smoke, but the fire smell can be quite, it depends on the wood that you're burning, obviously. It can be quite kind of annoying. It gets a bit annoying. These Yankee candle things, which everybody has these days, smell delightful, but also can get a bit sweet and strong. You know, everything has its limits, I suppose, except vanilla ice cream. That's just perfect. Nothing can ever go wrong with vanilla ice cream. I love the smell of lemon.
Yes.
Lemon you can never, ever get enough of. The taste or the smell.
And different parts of the lemon, the zest versus the juice.
Yeah, but there's something that I'll never get sick of those. Fabric softener, baby smell. Yeah, that's good. Fabric softener is, again, designed to make your clothes smell nice. There is nothing better than getting out of the shower, especially in winter, and a towel that is dry. It's not damp from the last time it was used. A dry towel that smells fantastic, right? Best thing ever. Because there's nothing worse on the other side than a towel that smells disgusting.
Yeah, I've stopped using fabric softener.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I find it can be really irritating to my skin.
Oh.
And so the problem is that you end up having quite a bit of static in your clothes, which isn't ideal, but you can get rid of that with hairspray.
Women are attracted to taller men because they understand that they emit pheromones from the top of their heads, and taller men will be able to smell them more. Really? I think that sounds like absolute bullshit.
That sounds like a lot of shit.
That is just nonsense. Mapello says, too many smells in a gym bathroom. I can't survive more than a minute. Any public bathroom is too disgusting already, but imagine how many more smells where people take showers as well. Listen.
Not great.
The locker room at any gym is just... It's not, and they try, hey, they use chemicals, they have the guys in there cleaning 24/7. It's just gross.
You have to remember that you're smelling sweat, and what is the thing you're smelling?
No, it's not just sweat though. It's farts. It's just gross foot stinks. It's like men, especially men in men's locker rooms, they're just fucking revolting.
And it's the temperature as well. If you're smelling like hot sweat, it's not great.
Gross, man. One of the other best smells is bacon.
Yes.
Cooking bacon.
Oh, very, very good.
That's a good smell, right? Smelling a night market in Wuhan is like GBH on your nose. I don't think you want to go to a night market in Wuhan. No. Can you ask Leigh-Ann to say juice again, please? My eyes were open first time she said it.
Juice.
Juice.
The juices.
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what that is. Wade says you can learn to like certain smells, like you can learn to like a beer, maybe. I mean, for example, you bring up beer. I've never been a beer drinker. But on a hot summer's day, that first sip of a fresh beer is a nice thing. After that, I lose interest. But that first sip is awesome.
I'll have a beer around once a year on a particularly hot day, and that's, but don't give me a second one.
Yeah, agreed. Men's pheromones are in the armpits. Women's are on the head because of natural height differential.
Oh.
Okay, I don't know anything about this, so I'm
Maybe.
not going to mock it and make fun of it because you might be right. Pine gel, says Bitcoin Brit Smells.
Yes.
They use pine gel to get rid of those bathroomy smells.
Mm.
You buy it in those big tubs, right?
Yeah. And you
It's
can get
gross.
pine-scented car
Okay.
thingies.
Cedar sprinkled on hot rocks in a real sweat lodge is fantastic. Now that does sound good. And of course, the wood that they use in a sauna is meant to be beech wood, right?
Okay.
And beech, it has particular aromatic properties as well, which is why it's meant to smell nice. Doesn't always, but it's meant to. The other thing is cinnamon, says Mapelo. That's a lovely smell too.
Apparently, South Africans love cinnamon more than the rest of the world does.
Really?
We've got a bit of an obsession.
You know what is cool? Is like if I'm feeling a little bit indulgent, it doesn't really make a difference if I do have it or I don't. But occasionally to sprinkle a bit of cinnamon on your cappuccino is quite cool. You know, not a lot, just a little bit. So there's some there in case I want it.
Yeah.
You don't really taste it. It's more of a smell thing,
Yes.
but it's lovely. I actually think the smell of peach schnapps is quite fragrant. It still makes me heave, says Slippery Pickle. Yeah.
We didn't have much choice in those days. It was peach schnapps or all the different colour sambucas.
Oh, the smell of sambuca is not something very pleasant to me. Or straw rum.
Oh, yeah, no, that's bad.
Rum and raisin ice cream. It all smells the same.
I do like a rum and raisin, like
You do?
a rum and raisin Cadbury's bar.
Okay.
Yeah,
Smell or the taste?
both.
Okay. Pannenkoek. There we go. That's probably why we use more cinnamon than anyone else.
Yeah.
Pancakes
We use it
and-
on our fat cook.
Yeah, pancakes especially. Milk tart. Don't think that really caught on in the rest of the world, says Clint from the Val. That's also a reason we use
Also
cinnamon.
Yeah,
Milk tart's good,
it is.
right? It's a good South African.
Although someone
dessert.
made it on MasterChef Australia, a South African guy, and was proudly saying how this milk tart is something everyone loves in South Africa, and not one judge liked it.
Oh, sons of bitches.
Acquired taste, perhaps.
All right. Yeah, these are good smells, though. We're getting some good ones on the list. I like this. I reckon still top 5 have now got to be something like vanilla, lemon, cinnamon, chlorine.
You're still trying to get your chlorine in there.
I'm trying to get chlorine in there. Burning incense. I like to drink tea with rum in winter.
Tea with rum.
I found out something interesting yesterday. T is short for transport aromatico or something. That's where it comes
Oh.
from.
Who knew?
Yes, because the word chai is the word that I think is used in some countries where tea is known and grown. But look it up, TEA, where it comes from. It's an interesting diversion from our discussion around smells. The smell of your neighbor's braai vlees. Oh, listen, the smell of a braai is just...
Oh, goodness
The
me.
smell of a braai is good. And
Good
if your
for a
neighbors have
vors.
got a really good braai going on, that makes you super jealous.
So jealous. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's very
And
bad.
it's not the type of thing that you can quickly copy them.
No.
It takes a bit of
Takes a while. By the way, here's some more smells to add to the best smells of all time. Orange. Orange has
Ooh,
got a
and
very
what
good
about
smell,
a
right?
good curry.
Curry. Jasmine is another one. I love the smell of jasmine. That's how I know it's spring.
Yeah.
I know spring's just around the corner when I can smell the jasmine. And it makes people sneeze, but I love it. The nail in the coffin is people who shave in a gym bathroom and never clean the basin. Why shave in a public bathroom? This is Mapelo. He's still going on about the bathrooms. I agree with you, though, Mapelo. I'm glad you've got such a bee in your bonnet about this. I saw a dude shaving his head in the gym change rooms, and then he left the basin with all of that in
I
it.
know.
I'm like, what does your house look like, you fucking machine? What does your house look like? It must be a disgrace. It must look like Mogadishu in there.
Unless somebody's cleaning up after him, and that's why.
But even so, that poor person,
Yeah.
you know, it's just amazing to me how people will treat a public place and have no respect, but they'll complain about when other people do things that they don't like
Sharing
in their
office
space.
bathrooms.
Oh, yeah, please. Coriander goes in Boerewors. Coriander's
Very,
not really a
again,
smell, though, is it?
marginalizing.
Oh, look at this. Okay, so here, favorite smells by gender. And there's a difference between men and women, although I'm struggling to find what it is. Freshly washed clothes come up with women, but not with men. That's obviously because women do all the washing, you know?
Of course we do.
Fish and chips for men. Fish and chips
Okay, well, that's a bit.
must be British because for us it would be braai. Fish and chips is not even on the list. Freshly cut grass comes up at number 4 for both.
Both.
Then men like frying bacon, women prefer vanilla at 26% each. Then fresh coffee and then freshly baked bread. Yeah, well, Bitcoin But will know all about that. He bakes his own bread.
There you
And
go.
I do love the smell of freshly baked bread. It is fantastic. I'll put that at number
Knowing
1.
that you're going to slice that and put on a good bit of proper butter.
Fuck yeah. A new smell that is all the rage at the moment is patchouli,
Yes, it is. It's
says Tracy. It's
very trendy in fragrances at the moment. I don't know what it is. Is it a flower?
Don't know. I know that they put vetiver and patchouli in a whole lot of colognes.
Right.
I'm a bit of a cologne freak. Hey, I've got a cupboard at home with
It is a plant.
a
patchouli.
lot of different colognes in it,
Yeah.
and I'll change whichever one I use based on my mood. So I think smell's kind of important to me.
Your patchouli, it looks very similar to lavender. Is a bush-like
Okay.
plant, bushy herb from the mint family.
All right.
Earthy, musky, and sweet.
That's another great smell, mint. Right?
Yes.
That's a nice smell. Why are you blocking my comments, says Durbander. Are you blocking people's comments, James? Oh. It's YouTube, it's not James, so calm down. The Real Network, I don't have much hair on the top, but when I shave the base and the balls at gym, I leave it in the basin as well. That's what the cleaning staff are there for. That is revolting. You should be taken outside and shot. Rose water, the smell of rose water, yum, says
yeah.
Dusty Kate Doge.
It's a bit of a weird one too. You either love it or hate it. It's like coriander.
Rose water's fine. New car smell, says Goon. That's lovely. I love the smell of baked bread, says Dove. A freshly cut roosterkoek, says Tracy. I recently learned to make them. It's so awesome. Gareth, last time was the first time I smelt bread in my house because all the doors and windows were closed, and it's an amazing smell, says Bitcoin But. Yeah, that is really, really cool. After I had COVID, everything smelled like burnt cleaning chemicals on a hot stove for 2.5 years after. I couldn't
shame.
taste for the same time frame.
Oh, how horrible.
That's horrific. The smell of cash slaps different as well, says Sugar Chamalala.
Not when it's like a rolled up, dirty 10 Rand note.
Yeah, money has a funny smell, and if it strikes you as being dirty or unclean, very unpleasant.
Remember counting coins as a kid?
Oh.
And you'd have to wash your hands afterwards.
Gross.
'cause they would come out brown.
Yeah, it was gross. The salty smell of the ocean, says Margarita. Yeah, that's a very good smell. I like this. This is a fun thing to talk about. The smell of wet cement, says Signet.
Cement?
That's a particular smell.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's not, when you've just done renovations.
Yeah. I don't mind the smell of it, like plaster. The smell of plaster.
Plaster's fine, but that wet cement, like when you've got a water issue.
Dirk says, I'm one of those stupid people who buy cologne every time I go through an international airport, mostly for my wife and kids. Yeah, I do too. I don't know. It's because they only sell that shit.
And because you're bored.
Yeah, probably. It's expensive, I mean, it's really like some of these colognes. I've got a bottle of something which cost me 5,500 Rand for the bottle. I was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck was I thinking when I bought this? That's stupid. Anyway, I got it now. It smells fantastic, by the way. After COVID, I couldn't smell bad smells. I had to ask my husband to check the milk of the fish. I'm very, very, very particular about milk.
Milk, I'm very sensitive. I can't even smell fresh milk. I heave.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
know
used
that.
to have to,
That's
if I
not
was
good.
making the tea for my mum or whatever, I'd have to take the milk bottle to her to check.
What about good pipe tobacco, says Andrew? That's a good one.
Sometimes, but sometimes it can be a bit
That's very
nauseating.
nice. Look how many smells we know. Lol. Well, this is the point, right? The whole reason we got onto this conversation is because we were talking about how the machines will eventually develop a taste palette. And that we'll be able to copy and paste our taste palette. And other people will know exactly how we respond to certain taste. But taste is much easier than smell. Smell is much more complicated. I mean, you just look at the variation of things that have come up in the course of this conversation. Every one of those smells elicits a completely different reaction. Each one of them is completely distinct from the others. I mean, you could say that patchouli, for example, is in the mint family, but it's a totally different smell.
I'm trying to think of things that smell terrible but taste divine. Like that, I was going to mention the seed strumming,
Oh, God.
but that I think tastes terrible too.
Yeah, it does.
But I think there are some things where you think, don't be put off by the smell. It tastes really good. I can't think of anything.
Well, I don't really love the smell of a KFC. You know,
But it tastes good.
You know when you drive past a place that
The oil.
the KFC actual place doesn't. I don't like that smell. But you can't tell me that KFC doesn't taste nice. It does. But too nice. I haven't had any for ages, but I'm suddenly starting to think of it. You have a bucket a day. The smell of a spur from the outside, says Keith. Same kind of thing, I suppose.
Yeah.
No one's brought up the smell of a Ukrainian lady at teasers. Hits different at 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning, says Tony. My granny loved spoiled milk like a delicacy. Okay, Wade. That's not good. Bebop Williams wants to know, where's the guest, James? Do you have an answer for us? Okay. What happened to her? Is she all right? I hope she didn't fall. I've fallen and I can't get up. Come and sit down, James. Give us the sport. You said you've got something interesting to tell us. Durian fruit is like that, apparently, Leigh-Ann. says
Whoa, yes, that's one. I bought some in the Seychelles. Durian fruit. It tasted really good, but it was a guy who was selling it on the side of the road, and it tasted really interesting.
Yeah.
But of course, we took it home, cut it open, continued eating it. Next morning, woke up to, what the fuck is that smell?
Oh, really? Is it horrific?
So bad.
Like rotten kind of smell?
No, it's not rotten. It's different, but it's like this mustn't be in my nose.
So apparently Roxanne says, my brother fell off a bar stool, knocked his head, and lost his sense of smell for many years.
Oh,
It was awful. I don't know. Remember during COVID, some people lost their sense of smell too. I don't know that I would want to lose my sense of smell, because you will lose taste as well.
yes. So after my mum's stroke, she had lost her sense of taste and smell, and everything tasted like cardboard to her for a long time. And then slowly now she's obviously built different neuron.
So she's rediscovering all
She's
these
rediscovering,
things. Oh, cool.
yeah, the taste of things.
I don't know that I would want to lose. Look, you could probably get thin very quickly because everything tastes the same. So you'd only eat like stuff that's good for you. And you wouldn't have to smell unpleasant smells like paper factories or farts or sewage farms.
Paper factories, yes, exactly.
You wouldn't have to smell those things. But I would put up with smelling the horrible things in order to smell the good things. I think it'd be very good. All right, what have you got for us, James?
Hello, guys.
What's happening?
Not much, but quite a lot in the world
Yeah.
of sport.
You have a good weekend?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Very relaxed.
All right, excellent.
Too short, though.
All right,
It felt
very
way
good.
too short. But there was a lot of football this weekend. which
Tell us
we love.
more.
We love it. The Club World Cup is on, as you know, and I'm going to do it justice unlike men.
All right, well,
Because
go on.
We do love football. I do want to tell you guys about Mamelodi Sundowns, who have played 2 games now. They've won one, lost one.
Okay.
It's looking okay for them at the moment. They're third in their group. They're looking okay to go through to the next round. But I want
Third
to
out of 4 places.
third out of 4.
Oh.
So they've got to play 2 more games, 1 more game. But I want to take you guys through the potential prize money that they could earn at this tournament because it is eye-watering. So for a win, they get 37.5 million rand. So they've already
That would
picked
be
up
amazing.
37.5 million.
Does Patrice get any of that, or was he just carrying on plowing money in?
I was chatting to Flex about this the other day, and as far as I know, all of this money that they earn from this tournament is going to the players,
Okay.
which is good. I mean, it's
Sure.
deserved. So yeah, that's a win, 37.5 billion rand. A draw, 18.7 million rand, which is about $1 million US. So win or draw, they stand to walk away with quite a lot of money at this tournament. If they make it to the round of 16, they will walk away with 140 million rand. The quarterfinals, 246 million rand. The semifinals, 393 million. And if they win the entire thing, they will walk away with 750 million rand.
That's huge.
You forget the money aspect when you see people celebrating.
That's got to be one of the. But that's got to be one of the best paying sports events for the people involved
100%.
on planet Earth.
As far
Who's
as I know,
putting up
it's
all this money?
It's FIFA, obviously.
Jesus.
Corrupt FIFA.
They've got a ton of cash.
As far as I know, it's the biggest prize pool FIFA have done in a tournament so far.
Unbelievable.
Which is huge.
I'm actually kind of annoyed. I'm like pissed off that these guys get that kind of a payday.
See, sport isn't that stupid. You can live a pretty good life.
it's not stupid. No, it's not stupid. Okay, good for them. I hope they win.
So do I. So they are third in their group. They got one game left to go. But yeah, they played a really good game this weekend against Borussia Dortmund, who are a top European side. They were winning at one point, but that game ended 4-3 to Dortmund. Again, top European side for Sundowns to play the way they did was phenomenal. Speaking of South Africans just shining, this past weekend a South African 13-year-old was signed by Chelsea.
Oh, wow.
Chelsea Football Club. After the likes of City, Man United, Arsenal, and Liverpool being interested in him, Chelsea have signed him for about 17 million.
Is this the
rand.
kid that you told me about? The one that... Yeah, Camden Shaper.
That's the one, yes.
He's a 13-year-old football prodigy from Banani But set to join Chelsea for a reported £700,000 after attracting interest from major clubs like Manchester City and United and Liverpool and a bunch of others. Having impressed at Blackburn Rovers with 45 goals and 65 assists in a season, and he's 13.
Yeah.
Okay? His journey from local fields to international attention has inspired many South Africans, with many celebrating his rise as proof of the country's world-class talent. His move to Chelsea's youth academy marks a major step, blah, 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 blah. Okay, good for you, dude.
We don't have a lot of South African exploits in the world of football.
Camden Shaper.
Yeah, pretty big news.
Very
13-year-old to do that.
All right.
Would you, as a parent, obviously you're super proud of a son who's, this particular person. But the stuff that's going to come with it now is a lot of work. Would you rather have a child that was kind of just average and got on with things every day, normally? Or now, can you imagine the level of parental involvement
Sure.
going
Who
forward?
wants an
and
average
the
child?
Traveling and
Oh,
everything.
please. Dude. This kid, if he's as talented as he seems to be, he's going to have a really cool life. And if he's disciplined and his parents care about him, they can go and move there with him and shepherd him through the whole thing.
I hope that is the case, though. I hope he
Yeah.
is disciplined about it. And it's not okay, you've signed now.
Oh,
and then-
please. What's the worst again is so they push a bit hard or the parents have become a nightmare or what. It could happen. But I always think when these sports people who've got millions and millions of dollars and live in beautiful parts of the world and they get hot wives, they have lovely lives, there's nothing wrong. And my parents forced me to play tennis every day. Shut up. You got to do something. You got to play tennis. Some of us work in the mines, down in the mines, and we don't have that much fun. Venus and Serena Williams. Well, my dad was so mean. He pushed us and pushed us. Andre Agassi. Oh, it was so hard. My dad pushed me. Where? Shut up. You played tennis. You got paid to. Tiger Woods. Where? My dad was so mean. You played golf. What a fun way to make money.
I agree, actually.
Stop fucking moaning. Yeah, carry on.
I think that's the world of football. The world of rugby.
Yes.
British and Irish Lions played this weekend. They played Argentina. They lost 24-28. The British and Irish Lions are now going to Australia. They'll be there until August. They'll play a few games against some Super Rugby teams as well as the Australians. And then also in the world of rugby, the Boks are back next weekend against the Barbarians in Kaapstad.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the sport. I mean, there's quite a bit more happening in the Club World Cup, but games are happening thick and fast. So that's where my eyes are the whole week.
Do you think that there's an accent in the south and in the east? Because they're quite similar. The east and the south are quite similar. And we're talking about Joburg here. So anyone who's confused, we're not talking about everyone south of here.
Yeah.
The south of Joburg's a very different kind of place.
No, they can be very similar.
They are, huh?
Although the only kind of reference I have, because I would have been surrounded by South accents growing up in the South. So, but then when I met my to-be husband,
Yes.
his accent caught me off guard. And
Why?
he's from the East.
Oh.
So it must be different in some way.
Okay.
Because I said to him, which school did you go to? And he said, Irva.
What?
Irva,
What the fuck is that?
which is Edenvale High.
Ivaró. Just say it again.
Irva. So it must be different.
Say it again.
Irva.
Ivaró.
There's no L. Irva.
All right. And then how would you say Monjo?
Monjol.
Monjo.
Yeah.
That's Mondior, by the
Yes,
way, for anyone
Mondior.
who's not from the
It's
south.
Monjol.
Monjo.
Yeah.
And what other words do you think are particular and
remember.
peculiar to the south? Because if I think about Joburg,
What's Glen
you
Vista?
know, there's a four-ways accent. So people in the north mustn't get full of
Yes,
themselves
yes.
and start thinking that they're in any way superior. People in the north of Johannesburg also have terrible accents. And then, of course, you get the west, where they don't even speak languages.
The
They just
Bushrunt.
use grunts and
It's
moans.
very Afrikaans sounding. the
No,
West.
it's much more animal sounding.
But that's where those are the braais where I've been confused before, and I've started speaking in Afrikaans to someone, but they're not Afrikaans.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there is a difference. 100%.
And we've had the discussion about the four-ways accent, so we won't go into that now. But the south is probably the most unique.
How do you say Melbarton?
Malbarton.
Malbarton.
Melbarton.
Okay, but that's not that exciting.
I'm looking at areas in the south.
Oh, right. Glen Vista.
Glen
No, it's
Vista.
Glen Vista.
Glen Vista.
Glen Vista.
This is the most fun. I could play this game all day long. Just give people words. It will be a long road before South Africa gets into Formula One again, if at all, says Dirk. Current calendar and tracks are locked for a few years. Yeah, I don't know anything about that, but I know Gaten's trying very hard to get us a Formula One back in South Africa.
The owner of the Kyalami racetrack
Yeah,
is taking on the costs to upgrade the track
I believe so.
under his own pay or whatever, which I assume he'll be paid back tenfold when they do bring a Grand Prix here, probably.
Lebo Makatihela says the South rules. Oh, the South. And Carl DeSantos says, I'm born and bred South, but spelt Saaaaath.
Yes. Friend of
Half
mine-
Leb, half Pora. I'm somewhat of an expert.
friend of mine from the south. It's so funny saying that. Used to call it Eat Out,
Eat out.
which is Eat Out magazine. Eat Out.
Eat out.
It's just, do you want to be featured in Eat Out?
Eat out. I love this so much. This is my favorite thing now. We're going to get Michaela to say a whole lot more words from the south, all right?
And there's, thinking of the subjects, there's geography.
Eat Out.
Geography?
Geography.
Geography, yeah. Yeah,
I
geography.
think that might be pretty standard.
I think that's across the country mostly.
Yeah.
People don't know how to say it. Eat out.
Eat Out.
I love it. Okay, all right. We're going to call it quits at this point. Otherwise, we'll be here all morning. But we'll get Michaela to do another video.
We must.
This time we'll write the words down and get her to say what they are.
Another word she said was ox.
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 Did she say ox? Did she
That's
say
a
ox?
thing that the
man.
kids have taken
Simpiwe
on
does that sometimes. She
from
goes
Americans.
ox.
Ox.
It's a thing that the younger generation has taken on from Americans.
Oh, so it's on purpose.
It's on purpose.
Ox.
Ox, yeah. It's not because your parents said it. It's because you're watching American TV.
Oh, apparently it's not a he. Kailami's owned by Porsche.
Cool. Didn't
fine.
know that.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a happy day and a great week. And we will see you on Wednesday at 6 a.m. Bye.
What was that?
Is there a black person here?
What did you just say?
I said, is there a black person here?
Do you have a question?
Yeah. Is there a black person here?
Chip, why are you asking that?
Janice said there was one in here. Came to check.
There's a white person here too.
Well, I don't need one of those.
Chip, please stop what you're doing.
What's the big deal? I'm just trying to find the black person here.
Well, you found her. Okay, you got her today. Okay, let me see. Let me set my sparkling down.
Oh, here it is. Got it.
Are you saying, is there a black purse in here?
Yeah. Success. I like your haircut, Linda.